Hey y'all, Joefer here, the cranky old gay guy. And today is Friday, and I'm going to talk to you about something that made me cranky yesterday. So many things make me cranky. But I was at a Lowe's, okay? The little flip handle on the toilet, pushed it down to flush, and the piece of plastic, the plastic bar inside that lifts the mechanism that lifts the trap that lets the water in. Anyway, it snapped off. So I went to get a replacement handle, and I drove out to Lowe's at Delta Park, and it wasn't super busy, but there were lines to check out. And that's where my crank comes, is that everything at that store now is self-check. There are no cashiers waiting to help you. Occasionally, one of the self-check lines will have a cashier in it who will ring you up, but that cashier will also be the one walking back and forth to make sure everyone's doing it correctly, all the customers. And here's the issue. There were probably 14 people in line, including the two at the check stands that were open. And I think there's eight check stands or 6 check stands, but only 2 were open. So all of us are waiting. If you are a retailer and you are going to make your customers check themselves out, please provide them somehow to do that. Instead of having us stand around and wait while people struggle with this machine, while the cashier is just walking back and forth, she could have stepped in and helped the person struggling so they could get out, but she didn't. Instead, we're all waiting. Now, I went in the evening, late afternoon, 4:30, 5 o'clock. The store was not packed, and at that time of day, there's usually nobody on the floor to help you anyway if you have a question. I saw one person. That doesn't mean they weren't there. It just means I only saw one person. And I did walk the length of the store because I also went over to the hardware section and got something there. But my crank comes from not enough check stands open. And this has happened at grocery stores as well. They'll have 10 check stands at the grocery exit at one end of the store. And they might have 3 of them open. And it's busy. I mean, I used to work in retail. And oftentimes we might have 1 or 2 check stands out of many open at a time. But it wasn't grocery. It was hard lines. So hardware, toys, dishes, etc., and clothing. They all came through the same area. And grocery was something separate. This was at a Fred Meyer store, which is now owned by Kroger. So Ralph's is like a Fred Meyer, only Freddy's is usually much bigger. And has more things. I think Target, only it's been around since the 50s or 60s. Yeah. Anyway, I understand that they don't open a lot of check stands because then someone has to count out that drawer at the end of the night. And it's usually the one cashier up there has to do all the drawers that have not been counted. And if someone has left and not counted out their drawer, that sole cashier gets stuck doing it, or the night person in charge, which would be like an assistant manager who has to work in the evenings. So I get that part of why you wouldn't want to do that. But with today's check stands, and a lot of these check stands at Lowe's are card only, so there is no cash drawer, no money at all. So why can't you open those up? It's not like you have to do a count. You might have to push a button and then pull out a little receipt, as it's just giving you a tally, a report that then you're gonna put in an envelope or whatever and turn into whoever. But since it's all electronic, there's a good chance that's not necessary, and that department just pulls the files directly from the system. So I don't get that. I understand them not wanting to bring in another employee to run things because that's going to cost them money, but it costs them nothing to open up a card-only check stand and let customers use it. There is no count out. There is no anything that they have to do at the end of the night to that check stand So it hasn't increased their costs at all. So why are they choosing not to open them up? Are they afraid that one cashier can't watch 8 registers at a time to make sure that someone's not walking out with something? I don't know. They all have cameras that show you saying, hey, you're being watched. Well, are you really being watched? Someone I know who works at a similar store states that no, you're really not being watched. Oftentimes there'll be a video showing someone watching screens, and they'll say this person is watching you, and they're watching 20 screens and they're in some room somewhere. That's a tape, I'm told, and that person has nothing to do with this. It's just a tape they run, and the cameras are there to prevent theft, but it's not necessarily working in that the camera's probably not really recording anything. And if it is, they could potentially go back if they find something missing and look to see if everything was scanned. But will they? With the high volume that they do, probably not. So that's the only thing I can come up with for justification as to not have all the stands open that are electronic only, no money, to let customers use them, would be because that one cashier can't handle more than 3 or 4 at a time. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like good customer service. And I would like to see a change, because when you go in to pick up something, you want to get in and out. You don't want to stand in line for a longer amount of time than it took you to go pick up the product and bring it up front. Okay? That's what makes me cranky. That's what made me cranky. And that's why I'm cranky when it comes to self-checkout. In the grocery store, I hated it when they first did it. I thought, well, are you giving me a discount for doing your cashier's job? Are you paying me to do this? No. I have grown to like self-checkout when it comes to cashiering, because I don't want to make small talk with the cashier. I was a cashier off and on from high school through college. I worked in retail, so I was a cashier often. And making small talk with customers, it wasn't really something I enjoyed a lot. I mean, it was okay. You get to meet new people, you get to talk. But there's some people that you just don't want to talk to, and other people that are in moods that don't want to talk with you. So it's very awkward, and you can't wait for them to get out of your line and leave the store. So I did grow to like it in the grocery aspect. But again, there are some stores that just, they have all these check stands yet, and some are cash only, or card only, but they don't have them open. The Kroger that I go to, the Fred Meyer, they took out a bank of them so they could put in 2 self-checkout registers that have long belts. So people who have more, because originally self-check was for like 10 to 15 items, but people would come in with full carts and then they would hold up the line. So they got rid of 2 of the registers for some reason. They took out a row of registers, which is 4, and they put in 2 check stands with a roller belt, so you could just dump your card on it and ring it up, and then you walk to the end, and then everything is slid into on this table, and then you're supposed to bag it up. The problem with that is that I come in with my 5 items or whatever. That's the only check stand that's open with no line, so I use it, and someone has just finished, and they've got 40 items at the end of the table, and they take 7 or 8 minutes to bag their items. So anyone that comes after them is going to pile up on their stuff. That's an issue too. Does it make me cranky? It irritated me. It didn't make me cranky because I had a few enough items I could just pick them up. I didn't have to let them go down and mix with this other person's stuff. But I don't think that was a good idea. I think they should have left the self-check. And if you have 22 items, go through a regular check stand with a cashier, because they always have at least one cashier at the grocery store with an open register where they're the ones that enter and scan everything. I'm guessing that's because there are some people who are just incapable of self-check, be it they don't want to, be it they never learned how, or maybe they are of an age that it's hard for them to do that. So that check stand is available for them. But if you want to go through a check stand that has an actual cashier, you're going to wait in line. And that's something I don't enjoy doing. It makes me cranky. So self-check, I've come to terms with it. I'm fine with it. But don't make me wait to check myself out. If you have check stands, make them open and make them available. That's my word to you, the retailer. It's a way to make your customers happy. You make this customer happy. Given I'm not the one supporting your store, I'm not spending $1,000 a month in your store. Some people do. I get that. But from a customer's point of view, you never want to wait in line. I don't know any customer that wants to wait in line, ever. So you have the check stands. There's no count out at the end of the night. It's not a labor issue. So open them up. And yeah, I'm talking to you, Lowe's. Poop or get off the pot. You're either going to have them or you're not going to have them. So let's open them up and let people use them. All right, that's all I have for you today. It has been Friday. I hope you all enjoy the weekend and join me tomorrow, Saturday. Bye-bye.